NFL joining us now from the Pack a Day podcast. Not a Victory Monday helmet-worthy appearance, apparently.
I think it is. That's a big miss by Andy Herman, I think.
I have questions.
No. I thought about it. I thought about this hard. I'm not a superstitious person, but it feels like when the helmet went on originally is when this streak started happening. I didn't want to put it on today, and then now the streak ends. So, I thought about it long and hard. I didn't want to jinx anything, so no helmet today.
Yeah,
game respect game there.
Very much so. All right, so the conversation this morning is as optimistic as it's been. The Packers looked great yesterday. The Bears look good, although my opinion is I don't think the Bears were the team that, as many of us could admit, that we were afraid of. It didn't seem like the Bears had it together yesterday. So, Andy, tell us what you saw, because nobody knows ball like you.
Well, that's totally not true, but I appreciate the kind words nonetheless. Couple things. I went into this game saying that Chicago's really good, but they're missing two things. Caleb Williams isn't quite there yet, and their defensive line isn't a good enough pass rushing defensive line to ultimately, win you something significant in the NFL. They're missing a premier pass rusher, or just better pass rush in general, and they're missing sort of the finishing touches on Caleb Williams. And I thought both of those two things were ultimately what held Chicago back yesterday as well. I thought Ben Johnson did an unbelievable job calling the game yesterday that gave the Chicago Bears offense an opportunity to win the game. I thought they stayed incredibly balanced. I thought Jeff Hafley at the beginning also kept the Bears offense off balance with what he was doing. But through the course of the game, you know, all of the bootlegs and play actions, I read somewhere, I haven't verified this, but that it was the most play actions that anyone's basically run against Green Bay. It was the most play actions that were run this season, is why I could have that wrong. But either way, you could tell that they had a plan in place. And if I'm just being honest, I don't think Ben Johnson felt like he could drop back Caleb Williams traditionally, have him go through a progression-based offense and throw consistently and win that game. And that's not it sounds maybe like a harsh criticism of Caleb Williams. Caleb's in his second year in the NFL. He is in his first season with Ben Johnson, and he put together a really good game plan to keep Green Bay's defense off balance, to run the ball a lot, and to give Caleb Williams some really easy throws and opportunities. And Caleb did a good job for the most part with those opportunities, pretty much up until the end of the game. But you could just tell, to me, if Caleb Williams was asked to operate the same game plan that Jordan Love was asked to operate yesterday, I do not think it would have went well for Chicago. So I thought there was a little bit of hand-holding from Ben Johnson in that game. And I thought that's what, again, ultimately kind of holds Chicago back. I think missing Roma Dunze certainly hurt them a little bit yesterday as well. And then on the defensive side, they were forced to bring pressure on numerous plays to try to get pressure on Jordan Love. And Jordan just absolutely nuked them against the blitz yesterday, and they just couldn't respond to it. So until they get sort of that premium pass rusher or just a better pass rush to help them out, Love was 9 of 12 for 171 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and a perfect passer rating when blitzed yesterday. So to me, pass rush needs to improve a little bit for Chicago. Caleb needs to evolve a little bit more in Ben Johnson's offense, which I think he will, especially in year 2 next year. But right now, those are the two things that I think hold them back a little bit.
Andy, one of the big things we've been talking about this morning has been, and we just got done doing it in the last segment, of does the outcome of game 1, having it be fresh, looking ahead to 2 weeks, to round 2, did this game change your opinion or your feelings about Packers-Bears round 2?
That's a really interesting question. I guess I didn't have a preconceived notion necessarily of how round 2 is going to go beforehand, but I feel confident after watching that game, and I know it was close and it was a really fun game and the Packers won by 7. I feel confident that the Packers are just the better team of the two. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to win going into Chicago. Chicago is going to want revenge in that game. They're going to have, their fans are going to be raucous, I'm sure, in Chicago. That's going to probably be, just a massive, NFC North tilting game, especially depending on what happens in Denver. I would assume that the Bears will beat the Browns, but the Packers have a much tougher game against the Broncos. And so this is going to feel like a big fight feel in Chicago in a couple weeks on Saturday night in a primetime game, only game on. And if things got even a little chippy yesterday, I have a feeling they're going to get a lot more chippy in that game as well. So I think it's going to be a really fun game, but I just came out of this game feeling like Green Bay's the better team.
Andy Herman, the Pack a Day podcast on Inside Wisconsin Sports, joining us on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Are there more feathers in the cap yesterday for the Packers or the Bears?
I would say the Packers. I mean, the Packers won the game. I know that there's a lot of,
you know what I'm saying, though? Like, there's a lot of, there feels like a weird amount of optimism about the Bears from Packers fans today that I don't have. I just don't.
I know from Bears fans, the sort of, I don't know if we want to define it as a cope or not, but it was like, well, the Bears are in the first year of Ben Johnson and they weren't expected to be in the NFC North conversation. The Packers are, were supposed to be a Super Bowl team and they traded all in for Micah Parsons and the game was tied in the fourth quarter with 8 minutes left. So clearly this shows that to be honest, again, I thought Green Bay was, again, the better team. And I thought that Chicago had to really work to keep that game as close as it was. And I think if Green Bay just plays a slightly cleaner game, they are more than a 7-point win in that one. But again, Chicago had the opportunity to tie at the end. And I have no doubt whatsoever that Chicago goes for 2 if they get in the end zone at the end of that game and goes for the win. And I was not super excited and thrilled about the idea of that game coming down to a 2-point conversion at the end. So it's a really hotly contested game, and I expect something similar in Chicago as well.
I think the big point, Andy, is on Friday when we were leaving and we had our score predictions. I don't know if you remember, but Trevor said Packers 40 to Bears 10, thinking blowout. And I think a lot of fans were going into that game thinking it was Bears were paper tigers. They've had way too many lucky breaks, and now they were going to have to go up against a good Packers team, and it was going to show that they were frauds. And I think that the Bears made enough good plays, and they played well enough, and Ben Johnson called a good enough game to show that, no, the Packers still had to be the better team. There was no Bears folding. The Bears stuck with it and made plays and kept the Packers defense on the field and did enough things right to keep this game not only a good one, but competitive. And I know for me personally, it made me go, okay, that was enough for you to know that you're going to have just as big of a fight on your hands if you're a Packers fan going into Chicago in 2 weeks.
No question. I mean, the Bears won 5 in a row before that game. They 6, 7, 8, 9 of 10 before that game. They were playing with a ton of confidence. And listen, Ben Johnson is going to be, I think, a pain to go against for the foreseeable future. And I think that team, I labeled them going in. I don't think there were contenders going into the season or in this game. I said they're going to be a pain to play for a while here. And I thought we saw that in this game as well, that they're not going to be a joy to play. They're not going to be a pushover. That's a game that you're always going to have to be ready and prepared for until something changes or something goes wrong for Chicago, or all of a sudden Green Bay becomes a juggernaut or something. And I don't necessarily know either of those things are happening. So I expect them to be a huge pain. Chicago can easily win that game in Chicago, but I'll say it one more time. I have felt coming out of that game even more that Green Bay right now with both of these teams, the way that they're set is just firmly the better team.
Do you feel that that's the same case against Denver? Did this win against the Bears give you any feeling of they can go in and to Denver and do the same thing?
Yeah, no, but to be fair, I felt that before the game as well. I think Denver is always a very difficult place to play in, and I think it's not a trap game because Denver's a really good team. They're 10-2, 11-2, whatever it is, and they are top of the AFC. You're certainly not going to take them for granted when you've got that big divisional game against Chicago, and then you go west, and then you've got another huge divisional game against Chicago. They're not going to overlook Denver, but it's just a little bit different, and it's an unfamiliar opponent. Denver's playing with the confidence of 1,000 suns with that win streak as well. I think it's going to be a very similar game. I was interested to see that the Packers opened as 1.5-point favorites in that game. That was an interesting aspect as well. But no, Green Bay can go in and win, but that's another one that's going to be a pain and certainly is not going to be easy.
Breaking news: Micah Parsons is being held. In
you
case you
had me jump into Twitter. I was like, "What happened?"
Yet this isn't something that's going to be fixed overnight, because the NFL, no matter how many times we tell them that they need to watch for these holding calls, they're not going to call a holding call on every call. Now, would we like them to call it once, maybe, or twice in a game? That'd be great. So we talked a little bit ago, and we're going to talk about this ad nauseum in tomorrow's show. Is there an opportunity for Jeff Hafley to have something in his repertoire that takes Micah Parsons out of the rush scheme for a play or two, that puts all of the emphasis on the other side of the line and confuses whatever it is that we're trying to do? I'm just looking for a way, Andy, for us to approach this rather than we can't get a call, to, you know what, here's what we have in our playbook on the defensive side that's going to allow us to take that and throw it to the curb either way.
So yeah, there's a couple things. The first thing that I will say is, despite being double teamed, triple teamed, and held on the vast majority of the plays, he's still being a complete menace on defense. So yeah, you don't necessarily want to take that away and utilize him in a different way too much, because he's an absolute terror, whether he's getting guarded by multiple guys or actually legitimately being, basically choke slammed on any given play. The second thing I would say is, if you go back a week ago, and I haven't had a chance to watch the All-22 in this one yet to see if they did it in this game at all, but on the very first third down last week, they drop Micah into coverage, and there's about 2 to 3 guys that are set to block Micah, and Micah drops into coverage, and now there's 3 guys on that line that are blocking one dude, and Isaiah McDuffie and Xavier McKinney, a blitz on the same play, and both of them come unscathed and hit the QB, and it's this close to being a sack fumble on the play. And so, yeah, there's stuff that you can do if you start seeing teams not just holding, but you start seeing teams that are legitimately, triple teaming Micah on plays. Micah is a true off-ball linebacker. If he wanted to be a Mike linebacker in the NFL, he's probably a top 3 Mike linebacker in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So you all of a sudden drop him into space, and now you've got an unbelievable linebacker dropping into space. And whether it's Edgerrin Cooper or Xavier McKinney or a corner like Javon Bullard off the slot or Quay Walker up the middle, you can do so many different unique blitzes where they were expecting to block Micah with 3 guys. Now all of a sudden he's in coverage, and now they all have to adjust. Well, you've got guys flying in from a variety of different angles elsewhere. We've seen that from Jeff, and he can continue to do a little bit more of that as well.
Andy, why is it that when Micah Parsons is being triple teamed and still somehow getting to the quarterback, it's not creating enough opportunities to where we're seeing other guys getting bigger sack numbers? Because, like I said, Parsons is being triple teamed. It should be helping Gary and other people get to the quarterback, no?
It very much should be. And I think there's a few things at play. Number one, losing Devontae Wyatt, although, again, it's not like Wyatt was tearing the world up with sacks, but losing Wyatt definitely hurts. Losing LVN for this huge chunk of time definitely hurts. I mean, you go back early in the season, you had a defensive front of Rashawn Gary, LVN, Devontae Wyatt, Micah Parsons, all rushing at the same time. That's your most potent pass rushing defensive line. And we really just didn't get to see it because LVN went out really quick, and then Wyatt was out for a bit. Now Wyatt's out and LVN is still out. And with Wyatt out for the season, we're never going to see it again this year. And then the second thing is, if we're just being transparent, and there's nuance to this, I want to be very clear. I've talked about this a lot. Rashawn Gary is playing good football. He's having a good season. He's been great against the run. But based on contract plus expectations, plus Micah taking 2 to 3 guys on the vast majority of plays, you're hoping that your number 2 edge rusher that was expected to be your number 1 edge rusher just 7 days before the season, right before they traded for Micah Parsons, would be able to take advantage of that more and be more of a menace, be more of a disruptor. And he just has not been. He hasn't been able to get those quick wins. He hasn't been able to get to the quarterback as effectively. And that's been a bit of a bummer, and has been why I think this defense hasn't been quite as chaotic as a pass rushing unit. So hopefully getting LVN back at some point helps. And I think Gary just needs to take a little bit of a step up. But again, I want to be clear, playing good football, just not maybe to the level that we were hoping it to be.
Look at us. I mean, from comparing, let's just go back 6 weeks, 4 weeks. Look at us analyzing how we can go from good to great versus, oh my God, the life of a Packers fan. Andy Herman, the Pack a Day podcast. Watch them on YouTube, listen wherever you get podcasts, or join us on Mondays and Fridays at this very time when he joins us on Inside Wisconsin Sports. Andy, we appreciate you. We'll keep up with you all week, and we will talk to you again on Friday prior to the Broncos game. Good